and we are the Y'all Show. Hello, I'm John Rawl, and it's the point in our program where we bring on barbecue talk, and we're always glad to be joined by Matt Heermans, our barbecue barrister, for this special portion of our show. In fact, on today's Y'all Show, if you're fortunate enough to be watching us on our YouTube channel or on Yall.com at the Y'all TV options, we're going to make history by actually bringing on the beautiful face of our barbecue barrister, Matt Heermans. Hello, Matt Heermans.
Hello. I like the introduction, although, good thing you're not hooked up to a lot of Texas tests. But yeah,
Yeah,
good to see you. Good to see you.
good to see you. Amazing, amazing that we're actually seeing you. And I got to praise you for your Praise the Lord cap that somebody I know sent that your way not long ago.
Yeah, there's, pretty decent guy. Could be slightly overrated, but still a pretty good dude. Sent it to me a while back, and I figured it was apropos for today.
There's a wonderful place in Marion, Illinois called 17th Street Barbecue, and that's where that cap came from. And even though they're technically a Yankee town and a Yankee state, they have wonderful barbecue, including a mustard based sauce. And if I'm not mistaken, that certain little barbecue angel sent you not only that cap, but some mustard based barbecue sauce too, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff too. My wife likes it quite a bit, and hey, like I say, despite it being from Illinois. You got to recognize good barbecue for good barbecue. So here we are. Give a little shout out to 17th Street.
Yeah, and good apparel too, as they do have that hat up. Okay, Matt Hermans, I'm not sure how big of a golf guy you are, but for those of us who do like the sport of golf, this was supposed to be Masters Week in Augusta, Georgia. And of course, the Masters announced Monday that they're pushing their tournament back from this week to it's going to now be all fingers crossed. Sometime in mid November is when it's supposed to be. They actually have already canceled the Open Championship, aka British Open. They're still hoping to put in the PGA Championship and the U.S. Open. Those two tournaments will precede the Masters tournament, which means there's only going to be three majors here in the world of golf in 2020. So the Masters in the fall, that ought to be quite a scene there. And one of the things that the Masters is known for, amongst many things, is the food of all things. And they got something there at Augusta National, Matt Heermans, that I think you would go bonkers over. Something called a pimento cheese sandwich. Did you know that?
I've heard about that, and yeah, I've heard of those. I might have had a few in my day, and yeah, I'm a huge fan of pimento cheese sandwiches. I'm a huge fan of pimento cheese, and you put a little pimento cheese on a couple slices of white bread. There's not a whole lot better than that in the world.
Well, you have a good point that you bring up there. And in the spirit of all of the fun there with the Masters and with food and such, Yall.com has, as they always do, come through with a great story by Clark Shelton, the editor at Yall.com. In his story, The Strange Mystery Behind the Masters $1.50 Pimento Cheese Sandwich, which, by the way, this pimento cheese sandwich at Augusta National, you want to take a guess at how much it costs there for the patrons at Augusta National?
Well, I'm thinking less than $1.50, or maybe it is $1.50.
You are correct. And just for that, we've got a pimento cheese sandwich from the 2019 Masters tournament, and you are going to get that sent in the mail just like you got that Praise the Lord cap.
Yeah, I appreciate the thought, but why don't you save that for yourself? Why don't you try it and let me know how it is, John?
Okay, the one from 2019, I'll do that. But the Masters and this sandwich, the pimento cheese. Now, I'm going to walk through some of the ingredients in said Masters tournament pimento cheese sandwich, and you tell me how you think this will stack up. The real truth here, Matt Heermans, is no one actually has the real recipe. It's just like everything at Augusta National, a secret and also a great tradition. But we think we've got a real close, almost facsimile of the Masters pimento cheese sandwich. So if you don't mind, because there are variations of this thing out here, we've done our best here at Yall.com to come up with the closest thing to the so-called original recipe. And so I'm going to tell you what the ingredients are, and then you tell me if you agree or if you might kind of mix it up. And those ingredients include 3 cups of shredded white cheddar cheese. White cheddar cheese, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I love white cheddar.
Okay. So, in addition to 3 cups of shredded white cheddar cheese, 2 cups of shredded yellow sharp cheddar cheese. What is the biggest difference between a white cheddar and a yellow sharp cheddar?
The white cheddar is really sharp too. Usually, a white cheddar is extra sharp. Typically, you're talking about a a very sharp white cheddar cheese, Vermont white cheddar. There's no such thing as a white cheddar cheese that's not really sharp, which of course means it's kind of got that sour kind of kick that gets you kind of in the back of the mouth right here when you eat it. So typically white cheddar is really sharp, even sharper than sharp yellow.
Okay. All right. So, we now know our 2 different cheeses. Matt Heermans, we're not done with the cheese talk from you. Included also in this pimento cheese recipe for the masters, 4 ounces of crumbled. What cheese would you guess here?
Oof, crumbled, huh? Jack cheese?
Not blue cheese.
Oh wow! Oh, I did not expect that. That came out of nowhere.
Okay, well, the Masters has a way of doing that. So you got white cheddar, yellow sharp cheese, and now crumbled blue cheese. 4 ounces of that. You also aren't done. Of course, if you're going to have a pimento cheese sandwich, you need to have pimentos, right? And
Yes.
this ingredient for the recipe here is a 4 ounce jar, just one 4 ounce jar. I assume that's how they come in the grocery store. A 4 ounce jar of sliced pimentos, then drained. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, you got to drain them. I mean, the things are full of water, so last thing you want is a liquidy, cheese. We've kind of talked about the liquid stuff you get at the store. You don't want any part of that. So I think draining, very smart move by the folks in Augusta.
Okay. And then another ingredient, which I think is pretty self explanatory. They don't list this particular brand, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. A part of this recipe for your pimento cheese sandwich from the Masters is a cup of light mayo. Now, let me throw in here, and this is a big problem right now with the coronavirus. I'm getting reports from throughout the South that we're running low on Duke's mayonnaise. So something tells me that the Augusta National folks likely use Duke's mayonnaise in their mayo for these pimento cheese sandwiches. Would you agree with that?
I've got a quart of Dukes in my fridge right now, so I say it's a pretty good guess. Although there's probably some blue plate folks out there kind of getting fired up about that also.
Well, keep in mind, Duke's mayonnaise heritage is just across that Savannah River over in South Carolina, and Blue Plate wasn't around back when the Masters got going in the 1930s from a guy named Bobby Jones. So chances are it's Duke's mayonnaise, although that's not listed here in the official ingredients. And then, of course, if you're going to have a sandwich, Matt Ehrmans, you need to also have a little mustard on there. They've got 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard as part of the mix. Does that surprise you? It's Dijon.
It does, yeah. Mustard's a little bit of a surprise, but
Oh,
that's
you think mustard period's a surprise?
on a tomato cheese sandwich. I
It,
would say that's a little out of the ordinary. Yeah.
okay. Well, we're trying to brighten up your life here, give you something to look forward to. So
I
you
love
got
it.
your Dijon mustard, and that's a weird word for me to look at because the first 2 letters of the word Dijon are D-I and then my name. So it's almost like Dijon. And okay, I get it. All right. And then lastly, the last ingredient, if you're going to have a sandwich here, or some of us in the South say a sandwich, you need some bread. And they recommend, as part of the Masters, a loaf of white bread. Probably don't want
Agree.
to go around and asking for like whole wheat bread when you're dealing with a Masters pimento cheese sandwich.
I'm saying very strong agree with the white bread. That's good.
And then
Word
you mix it all together and you put it into a bowl, mix it up, and you don't use a blender. Are you surprised by that recommendation?
Can't use a blender. Yeah, that'll. You want the chunks. Yeah, you got to
Okay.
have those threads. That's
Yep.
right.
And another thing about a pimento cheese sandwich, it does take a few hours. It's not like you can go in there and whip it up real quick and instantly eat it. You got to let it be refrigerated. You got to cover it up, put it in the fridge for about 6 to 8 hours, and then add your pimentos after you do all that, mix it in. Then you can enjoy it. And something tells me if you're at the Masters, chances are that's not going to be an extremely cold pimento cheese sandwich. So, or is the perfect pimento cheese sandwich something that's actually been sitting out just a little bit more where it's room temperature?
I like it close to room temperature. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a cold pimento cheese sandwich. I don't think you want it too warm, but
Okay.
I would kind of lean towards closer to room temperature is about perfect.
Okay. And since it is something, again, served in this case at the Masters where it's outdoors, with all these cheeses, is that something you need to be real sensitive about keeping it out in the heat too much where it might cause you to have, let's say, problems down the road?
You might, I mean, more than the cheese, I think maybe the mayo, but if it's chilled, you're not going to have a problem. I mean, unless it's out there 24 hours or something.
Okay.
But something tells me they're not going to last that long for $1.50.
Well, good news for me, and again, one of the ingredients in this is mayonnaise. And the other day, I don't know what I was doing because of this darn virus. I was stuck here at the house trying to come up with some interesting things to eat, and I had pulled out my mayonnaise, and I left it out for about 4 hours. I totally forgot that it was there, and then I stuck it back in the refrigerator. I didn't get sick. Am I okay with leaving mayonnaise out for about 4 hours?
I got to be honest with you. I've been experimenting with that, not on purpose for years, and I think you're good. I think 4 hours is. I've gone longer than that, so I think you're okay. You'll be all
Well,
right.
I don't want to get sick with the coronavirus, but the last thing I want to do is have to go to the hospital and possibly check out because I ate awful mayonnaise caused by me being forgetful and leaving it out. Let's hope that doesn't happen to me. And obviously, if you say it's happened to you before, you're still
Yeah,
going, blowing
a
and
couple
going
times.
too, right?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Well, we're happy about that. Again, you can go to the website Yall.com and they've got all this broken out for you to make your life a lot easier. And even though it's going to be November, we hope, when the Masters of 2020 gets held, right now you can bring a taste of the Masters to your coronavirus headquarters and enjoy it right here, courtesy of the Y'all Show. We are the Y'all Show, talking with a southern accent. We've got Matt Heermans. He is our barbecue barrister. And Matt Heermans, go ahead and let everybody know where you're actually broadcasting from today.
Well, John, I am obeying all guidelines here. I am in the barbecue bunker, and
The
in
barbecue bunker. You heard him say it, and we're
beautiful
we're
and
making
quiet.
history. This
Yeah, yeah, beautiful and quiet Galveston, Texas.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we're glad that you're doing that, and that's a good-looking barbecue bunker. And we aren't done with our barbecue barrister. When we come back, this virus has people going out of their minds buying meat, and I want to get Matt Heerman's take on that, and some other good ideas that have kind of popped up here because of the virus. All that is our barbecue discussion with Mr. Heermans continues after this short timeout. And welcome back to Y'all Talk with a Southern Accent, our final segment here on this Tuesday edition. We've got our barbecue barrister, Matt Heermans, in the barbecue bunker, and we're talking all things Southern, specifically all things barbecue here in this segment of the program that's all about the South. Our website is Yall.com, the ultimate guide to the South, where we have great ideas for food. In fact, we just spent the last 15 minutes talking about the pimento cheese sandwich you can get at the Masters. The Masters week is this week, but it's been pushed back to mid-November because of COVID-19. But you can go to y'all.com and pull up the recipe, and it's a delicious way to get us through this boredom and absolute change of pace for all of us here as we're, for the most part, forced to stay indoors. And because we're indoors, we're trying to come up with some things to do. And Matt Herman's, I just saw an article. We talked about it when this thing first broke a couple of weeks about people going to their local grocer and buying up a lot of meat. Well, it looks like even at the local butcher shops, not just at your big chain grocery stores, they're also having people come in and buy up most everything they've got. And something tells me, Matt Hermans, you might be just one of those people guilty of such a action.
Well, I have bought my fair share of meat. Luckily they haven't instituted the one pork butter, one rack of ribs per customer um, thing yet, like they have with toilet paper. But I have certainly I've done a lot more cooking actually since I've been stuck at home because I mean, why not, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I'm here, I'm working from the house like most people are, and why not fire up the smoker? It's simple, it's easy, everybody needs to eat, and yeah. So I've been putting my time to good use firing up the smoker.
And the smoker is a good option right now. Let's not forget this is also Holy Week, and because of that, we just kind of came out of Mardi Gras season. One thing that I saw out there are a lot of people, because of all these various meat options available that they're able to, and they got time on their hand. A lot of people are doing a, a jambalaya, a crawfish boil right now. Have you tried that? Is that something that should be at your local grocer available? All the ingredients needed for a crawfish boil?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everything but the crawfish. In a lot of places, you can get crawfish. A lot of times they come in from the Gulf Coast. There's crawfish farms, from where I live over, even into Alabama. And so yeah, a lot of times if you go to the frozen section or the seafood section, you'll see a little sack, kind of a rectangular bag of frozen crawfish that have been harvested, deshelled, that you can use. A lot of times it's really not that bad. It's pretty decent. It's been shucked or peeled and then immediately frozen. So if you do crawfish jambalaya, you can always do shrimp jambalaya too. But yeah, it. Should be everything else. You got rice, you got the Trinity, you got seasonings. You're good to go. You can find that crawfish. You're That's a pretty good option, I would
When
say.
is crawfish not going to be available?
Well, if it's frozen, it's going to be so. There's a crawfish season,
Okay.
and that typically is somewhere around January till the farthest, the far end of it's going to be June. Typically, May crawfish season is going to peter out, and that's usually when they are ready to be harvested fresh. That's when crawfish boils happen. If you live along, like I say, anywhere near the Gulf Coast in the South, you're going to have crawfish boils to attend from February to May. So, but a lot of these places, like I say, they crawfish farms, they harvest them, they freeze them. So you're probably gonna be able to find frozen crawfish throughout the year. You're probably not gonna have an issue if you're anywhere close to where people eat them.
Okay. Well, that's helpful information. And although most of the times when you do something like a crawfish boil, you're going to have a big party come over and enjoy it, we can't really do that right now. So if you do fire up the pot out in the backyard and you've got a crawfish boil, is this something that can last several days, if not weeks, if you have it in your refrigerator?
No,
Really? Come on, man.
absolutely not. That's the one thing about a crawfish boil. As soon as that crawfish cools off, it is done. You do not you do not want to reheat crawfish. So I would say jambalaya is a different story. You can freeze that. You can freeze a pot of it. You can freeze a bag of it. But no, no, no. I think crawfish boil is eat when hot and throw away when cold.
Well, you're just the bearer of bad news. I had hoped you would tell me this is something that's going to get our families through this depression of coronavirus fatigue where we're stuck at home, need something to do. I mean, when you do a crawfish boil, you're talking about a couple hours of time out there getting it ready, right?
Oh, now look, wonderful time, especially if you got good weather like we have in my neck of the woods. Great time to get everybody outside. The smells and everything coming off of the crawfish pot are worth sitting out there. Set up some chairs and stuff. It's a great fun. They have crawfish tables too that are specifically for eating and peeling crawfish, but you don't really need anything. You just need a bucket and stuff. So it's a wonderful meal. It's a good time. It's just not something you can put in your fridge and heat up again. Put it
Okay.
that
Well, let me ask you if you've heard about this. I just heard the other day that dairy farmers are having to throw away perfectly fine milk because their need, the normal customers, the schoolrooms, the school lunches, the factories, the restaurants have all essentially shut down their need for milk. You still got cattle that are dairy cattle that need to have their milk, and these farmers have nowhere to send that milk, so they have to literally dump it out. And my guess is that since the crawfish is in the shrimp industry too, are very dependent on people buying their product. Well, with so many people not out buying that product right now, they still got to harvest it. And I bet you the prices of crawfish are pretty low right now because they want people to buy it.
Well, I would imagine so too. Crawfish are, uh, they're one of these. It's it's kind of a crop, I guess. It's not something like a cow or a pig where you can delay the slaughter for a period of time until the need goes up. I mean, the crawfish is ready when it's ready. Like I said, you don't want to freeze them. In fact, you've got to cook them alive. If they're dead, you do not want to eat them. So you're right. It's not something that's going to last. And just like cows, I mean, they got to be milked. I mean, just for their own health, they have to be milked. So
Even if
um,
there's nowhere to send that milk.
exactly, it just has to happen. Same thing. If you got crawfish out in a muddy field, they're not going to last next year. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, there's a lot of them go into dishes, go into restaurants, which are suffering now too. I think we've tried, and it's good for everybody to try to kind of support your local restaurants, but there's only so far they can go. But yeah, so not a crop you can freeze, not something you can store. It's got to be alive and fresh. So I'm sure that's going to take its toll.
Now, you just told us how crawfish has no afterlife beyond the couple hours when you first fire it up there. Is that the same for shrimp as well? If you do a shrimp boil as opposed to a crawfish boil, does shrimp have a little bit longer shelf life?
Yeah, no, I would say it's very, very similar for
Oh,
shrimp.
come on now.
Yeah, the only frozen shrimp you're going to get once they're thawed out, you don't want to freeze them again. And shrimp is so delicate. The reason I say that, crawfish is one thing. It's got all juices in it. It's got the tamale in the head that you suck out. It's got the meat in these shellfish are it's so delicate that once it cools and if you try to freeze it and then reheat it, it's going to be a texture you don't want to be part of. It's just not something that works that way. Now everybody knows frozen shrimp. You can get frozen shrimp in the grocery store. Sometimes you want to kind of look at where some of this frozen shrimp comes from, particularly in this climate we have now. A lot of frozen shrimp that you don't get from the Gulf is imported from overseas. You don't really know where it's coming from.
Don't want
So
that. Don't want anything from some kind of
no,
market, fish market.
no, you don't. And the funny thing is, people think, well, if I'm eating shrimp in Louisiana or Alabama or Florida or Texas, like, man, I'm sure that shrimp comes from the Gulf. There's about a 9 out of 10 chance it doesn't. It's probably imported from somewhere else. So if you're eating Gulf shrimp, they will tell you, you will know, or you will purchase it from someplace. So anyway, that's something for people to consider, especially during this time. But no, shrimp, again, once it's been frozen, once it's thawed out, it does not have a shelf life. You do not want to freeze it warm enough again. It'll turn into like that consistency after you've over chewed bubble gum and it starts disintegrating in your mouth. You don't want that.
Okay, helpful advice from our barbecue barrister, Matt Heermans, as we kind of wind things down here on this Tuesday, talking to our barbecue barrister. All right, it's been a week since, well, actually, it's been 2 weeks. We gave you the week off last week. We gave a little encore from like a year ago, and how times have changed in the last year. But we gave you 2 weeks. So you've had 2 weeks to come up with the answer to my next question. What's the
Yeah.
one dish that you're most proud of that you've maybe come up with over the last couple of days as you're stuck at home with 95% of the rest of America?
Ooh. Well, I guess it would be. I would be kind of mailing it in if I just said, a spectacular rack of Memphis style dry
Well, I
ribs.
was hoping you might tell me it might have been a crawfish boil, but obviously you're anti crawfish boil. So what else you got there?
Hold on. Let me clear the record up here. Let me be clear. I am absolutely pro crawfish. I would encourage everybody to boil the absolute you know what out of any crawfish they can find during this time of year to support the crawfish farms, and just eat it all up right then, and then boil it up the next day too. How about that? So I am very pro crawfish and shrimp boil. You just need to eat it right then. So um, I have done some, like I say, I've been cooking, I've been smoking, I've been doing all kinds of barbecue because I'm at the house all the time. So
And
I've
being
been
at the house, let's be honest. I mean, I don't want you to come across being a negative guy. That's a good thing for you, right? To be at your house.
I like it. I've enjoyed it. I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my little daughter, which is good. I'm taking the silver lining out of this thing. So there have been some very good things that I've enjoyed, but some of that is you have extra time to do things. So I've come up with some novel ways to
Don't
use.
use that word. Don't use the word novel.
the
That's a bad
no-
word. Novel
You're right.
coronavirus.
Yeah. I'm going to avoid the novel. I'm going to avoid the number 19. Let's do all that. Get all that out of the way. Um, but I have made some, we've discussed before, and this is the reason I thought about this. You've asked me before on this show, John,
Have I?
yeah, what is a rib sandwich? What the heck is it? How do you eat it?
A
What's
rib
the point of
sandwich?
it? Yeah, we've discussed that before because ribs have bones, and you can't exactly bite through a rib sandwich. However, I have taken it upon myself to create a rib sandwich um, for partially because of curiosity and partially because of boredom. But simply removed the bones and taken the rib meat off, and have developed a real rib sandwich that you can actually eat that do not have bones in it. So, um, I would
I
say,
think that's called a McRib.
yeah, yes, I would invite anybody to try to find the part of the pig that the McRib comes off of. If you if you can find that part of the animal,
Well, you've got coronavirus appalls in your life, so what
yeah,
better? You've
right,
got until November when they roll it out again. Use
that's
this
right.
time wisely, Matt Heermans, and let us know what's in a McRib.
If anybody can locate that part of the swine, please call into the show or let us know. But yeah, I have messed around and kind of developed a McRib that is made from actual animal products. And it has turned out pretty good, I must say. I'm fairly proud of that.
And what goes on that rib sandwich? Obviously, a good slab of ribs, probably Memphis style.
That's the way I prefer it. However, um, I will say this: on a rib sandwich, you kind of want it saucy. At least that's what I would imagine. So you probably just want to go with a wet rib. You probably want to drench sauce all over it, get it all over the white bread to where it's all over your
Mm,
thing,
more
dripping off
like a rendezvous Tuscaloosa style.
like a dreamland. I think is what you're.
That's what I meant. I'm
You
sorry.
said rendezvous. You said rendezvous, which is good dry. Well, I think you're talking about
No, I'm
dreamland.
talking about Dreamland and I get Memphis and Tuscaloosa mixed up, and I apologize. I know there's a big difference,
The reason I know you said that is because that Dreamland barbecue sauce is very good. So
especially with that white bread.
exactly. So yeah, rib sandwich. You want to have a lot of sauce. You want to have white bread. I don't think you need anything else.
Mm,
That's
man,
keep it simple. Keep it good.
I hope, and I should have called before the show. I should have called to make sure Dreamland is indeed open. I think some of their locations, it's fairly easy to pull up and get a to-go order. Of course, Tuscaloosa, man, they're getting hit pretty hard by the coronavirus, and I saw where they pretty much had a lockdown there in T-Town, but they got more than one location in Tuscaloosa. So if you're fortunate to be there in that part of West Alabama, let us know, 803-816-1170, if we can maybe swing by Tuscaloosa and get us some wet ribs from Dreamland and that delicious white bread. I may have told you I was in that area about a year ago, I think it was, and I did just what I'm talking about. I got me a to-go rack of ribs and white bread from Dreamland, and I had to get back to where I was going, and I'm driving down some of the back roads, and I do mean back roads of rural West Alabama. And have you ever tried to eat Dreamland ribs while going down the highway and you're driving? Have you?
No, but I probably would. I would probably be as weak as you were, and I would try it. Put it that way.
It was tough. It was messy, and I did something I don't encourage, and I'm embarrassed to admit. But look, you don't have much of a choice. I littered. I littered the highway with ribs.
Hopefully, just the bones, right? Because some animal got those.
Yeah, and I think I did hold on to my packaging. I threw that in the trash can, but
Well,
I must confess.
we'll see. I mean, that's not littering. What you're doing is you're sharing that delicious that barbecue taste with the local wildlife. So I would consider that to be an act of kindness towards
I was
the
green before Representative Cortez from New York State. Matt Heermans, our barbecue barrister. I wore this special shirt here because we're actually, in addition to the Masters starting up here this week, we're also supposed to be in our first week of Major League Baseball. And I want to talk to you about baseball and how we can maybe, even though we don't have baseball to watch, we might can go fire up a game from 50 years ago on the TV. It, we might can have a little cookout, try to replicate baseball season, and we'll just have to push that back next week because I actually have some questions about wieners because I'm trying to eat a little bit better and barbecue. I mean, hot dogs. They do come in different varieties. You got pork, you got beef, you've got chicken. I think a turkey hot dog, and there's variations of how healthy they are. And I need to get your opinion on that, but we're going to have to push that back to next week. So, do you mind talking weenies with me next week?
Absolutely. We can talk all the wieners you want to talk next week.
Thank you, Matt Heermans. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for being our very first Y'all TV live in the flesh guest right here on the show that's all about the South.
It's a heck of a good time, John. I mean, I hope be a turnoff seeing the mug on there. But hey, you know what? I enjoyed it, and yeah, I look forward to next week.
We just have to prove here on this show that Matt Heermans is actually, believe it or not, a real person, and that he is. Well, that will conclude our show for today. Thank you. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday. We've got all the latest in the Atlantic Coast Conference to pass along, including big news for the Clemson Tigers. Hey, no surprise, they're to be the AC champs and ACC champs and possibly national champs again in 2020, if there is a season, that is. And also, we'll get the latest from Nashville and country music insider Precious Harris. All that coming up on the Wednesday show of this Y'all Talk with a Southern accent.